Hey there on YouTube. I'm going to show you my interview with George Lopez in just a second, and it is really something else, I promise you. But first, I wanted to let you know that Bullseye is produced by a company called Maximum Fun. We're a 100% worker-owned cooperative that makes both the video and radio versions of this show. And we are mostly supported by you directly. So not ads on YouTube, not ads on the radio, but by you becoming a member of Maximum Fun, which means going to maximumfun.org/join and signing up to send us $5 a month or whatever. This is a big endeavor, especially the video side of this. We got a new video producer. His name is Daniel. He's the one who's making these videos. We got to pay him. So we're hoping that if you like these videos, you will tell your friends about them, and also that you will become a member of Maximum Fun. We've had a pretty cool year on Bullseye. You've seen great interviews with Kelsey Grammer, Jennifer Hudson, DeMar DeRozan, Connie Chung, lots of other awesome people. We want to keep doing them. So please go to maximumfun.org/join and become a member. We'll have the link down here as well. That's maximumfun.org/join. There's lots of great thank you gifts when you sign up. There's exclusive audio that you can get, all kinds of cool stuff. But basically what I'm asking is, can you show up for us at maximumfun.org/join? Okay, here's George Lopez. Welcome to Bullseye, George.
Thank you.
Really nice to have you here on the show.
I appreciate it. It's nice to be here.
You've played sort of versions of yourself in television sitcoms for so long now. And this one has the many of the tones and qualities of a traditional family sitcom, right? You're in front of an audience.
Yep.
You're selling jokes about misunderstandings in the family.
Yes.
It is also very intense.
It became, yeah.
In a way that the George Lopez show, for example, was not really.
No, although at that time we thought that was pretty intense, but not anywhere near. I think most of the stuff that from the first show that was emotional for either Belita or myself was just the mother and the son relationship. Never really with the friend or with the wife, you know. But because she was very well-rounded, you know, actress, acting coach and things like that. Like I remember, you know, once the show was like 4 years, you would get a knock on my door. You open the door, it's Helena Christensen, and she's like, "Am I close to Belita's dressing room?" "Yeah, she's two doors down." And they would these famous actors coming to take an acting class with her. Well, you know, we were done pretty early, and then you'd see these actors come in.
You must have known when you signed up for this show with your daughter that it was going to be different from the average TGIF show.
You know, there's not a lot of shows in network TV that go there, and I think one of the probably issues is, you know, if you could stay out of the water, you know, but if you go in, you know, will it be believable when you create whatever a writer would create, you know? But you know, fortunately and unfortunately, that Mayan was so, you know, forthcoming about her trauma, generational trauma, and my part in it. And, you know, I didn't mind having it be about that, even though I know that it's a very, very tough thing to navigate between the two senses of humor and of something that's actually very real. I cry a lot on that show. I you know, take time where I didn't before, and you know, all of it is real. I think it's I can't say if it's been as helpful to me because I don't know. I mean, you know, it's pretty deep wounds, but I think for Mayan, it's been really a great experience for her.
When you and your daughter were first started talking about pitching this show, did the two of you talk about how far or where you would go?
Yeah. And I said, hey, you know, if you don't feel comfortable with anything and you don't aren't able to really tell them because these are new people that you're going to meet, tell me and I'll tell them. And she was like, no, that's pretty much the thing there. So, yeah, I mean, I hope that in some change the world or a person's thinking, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take one person's mindset. But, Mayans received a lot of very favorable things with kids her age that are a little bit separated from their fathers and how it has helped, to have something to watch together. Just like I heard at the first show where a guy says, my daughter wants me to buy her a car. I don't make enough money to buy her a car. So she's really mad at me. And we watch your show, and for that half hour, she's my little girl again. And then we go to our neutral corners and stuff. So, yeah, I think TV raised me. Only child at Mission Hills there, and grandparents worked all the time. I spent a lot of time alone, and without TV, I'm not even sure what would have happened to me.
When your daughter was a kid, did the two of you ever talk about your parents?
Not very much. My grandmother didn't talk to me about who my dad could have been or the things that were wrong with my mom. And then Anne would say, like, how could she have not told you? And, in her 80 or in my 40, 50 years, it just, that woman was like, I don't know if she knew anything, but she wasn't going to divulge anything that was, I can't say not pleasant, because she was kind of really not pleasant, but I don't even think she really even knew what to say.
There's an amazing joke in your new special, Muy Católico, where you say, I'm paraphrasing, but you say, I've been describing my my grandmother as mean because she never told me she loved me, but to be fair, she also never said hello to me.
Yeah, that's it. Man, it's just, you walk into a room and nobody says hello. It's really devastating to a kid, man. And everything was no. I remember in the Why You Crying special, I said, everything was no. And I'd say, Grandma, no. I'm like, you don't even know what it is. And she's like, I know what it isn't. So, yeah, I think, I'm always about a half of a tick away from crying most of the time, I think. I've been pretty emotional the last couple of weeks, and I don't know why. I think, the older I get, maybe these are the things I should have felt when I was in my 20s, but I come from a very closed off background, really closed off, which made me, a hell of a pretty a comedian that was not afraid. I knew my lane, but also I knew that fear would just debilitate most comedians. And on the level on the way up, it gets to guys and they can't handle it. And, I haven't had any trouble with that.
Were your grandparents the first generation of your family to live in the United States?
My grandmother was, yeah. And my grandfather was not biological. And, this is, I think on a Sunday, I might have been in 11th grade, and my grandfather comes back out there and just working on, you just be like, why would you even start this? He said, hey, you better hope that I die first. And I'm like, what? And he says, if she dies first and this is going to be my house, I'm bringing my family in, and then you're going to get the hell out of here. And I said, but I grew up here, because I don't care. You better hope I die first. And he walks away. I'm like, what's that? What's that about? What was the purpose of that conversation? And he did die first. And it's just like, did I need to hear that when I was 17? I don't think I did. It's terrible.
Like his family from out of the country, a side family? What are we talking about? His family, like his parents?
His cousins and his nephews and stuff, where he tried to play, it's ripe for comedy that my grandfather would play big man. He worked in construction. He didn't have any money, but he loved when his family would come over on Sundays, and he'd sit there and pontificate. Yeah, this, what do you want, $100? Go get my jacket, give it to him. They would never pay him back. And even my grandmother would tell him, you just want to be a big shot to your family. And you're giving money away. You're not asking people to pay you back because you want them to believe you're this guy. But meanwhile, you don't have any money. And the night that in 88 and he passed away, Easter was like April 4th. And as soon as the word got out, his family came over And I had kind of left the room, but those cousins were around my grandmother, and they're asking what were they going to do with the house. And my grandma looked at me, and I was like, "What did he say?" So I said, "Hey, you guys got to get out." I said, "You guys not around anymore, and you're not welcome in this house anymore. This lady just lost her husband. You're asking all kinds of questions. Get out." And we never saw him again.
I can imagine that the generational gulf between you and your grandparents must have been monumental.
Yeah, man. It just drove me more towards, isolation, I think. They were never happy nobody asked me what my grades were. Nobody asked me, how was your day? Nobody asked, is there anything you need for school? And one of the probably the most painful things is that, my grandfather, we weren't always at odds, but maybe when I was 12 or 13, I realized that no one had graduated from high school in my family. Like they'd all had dropped out. And I said, well, I'm going to be the first one that's going to graduate from high school at least. And he would always tell me, you got to go to school. He wasn't an educated guy, he was a ditch digger, construction. And he would say to me, you got to go to school. You got to get an education. You got to do this. And I remember one summer, I was always after him for me to go to work with him, And he takes me in the morning. My grandmother makes my little lunch and his, and then this guy's got me putting dirt into a wheelbarrow and taking the wheelbarrow and then dumping it over there and coming back and filling it up again. And literally by 8 o'clock in the morning, every finger on the other side has a blister that's ripped and just in terrible shape. My hands, And he said, "Don't do anything. Just stay off to the side." So I think the end of the day, I was just doing stuff around there, and then we were in the truck driving home, and he said, "Okay, this is what you have to decide. I had no options, but you have options. So you have to decide whether you're going to work with your hands or you're going to work with your head. Because when you work with your hands, this is what happens every day. There's no day is different than the other day, except when it rains, you might not work." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to work with my head then." And that may be, out of all the advice he was trying to give me and trying to get me to follow, I think that one visually was the best move I think I made. And he didn't go to my graduation when I graduated from high school. He didn't go, and I didn't know he wasn't going until my grandmother got there, and I said, "Where is he?" He's at home, listening to the Dodgers. Yeah, man, that was tough. It would have meant a lot to me if he had been there. I still think even now, I think, what a heartbreaking thing, man. Like he didn't say anything. Like there was nothing. Terrible.
Were you angry then?
Yeah, I think I was. Yeah, I think I was. And didn't know how. I mean, back then you just acted out. Maybe threw a rock, broke a window. Take something that's not yours, or whatever. But I was pretty much a case, man. Like a really, really bad case. I think of what could a kid have and still get up and go to school and come home. Really like. So I just lost myself in TV, and I was already writing jokes. I think at the time I was 11, I was writing stuff in those little Mead. Tablets, like the detective would pull it out. You'd say, like, "What happened here?" You'd flip that thing over. So I was doing that. I was writing stuff like that at 11. And then, even before I knew what manifesting was, I wrote this thing to myself in one of those things that said, "I know at times I feel I can't make it, but I will hit the American people like a hammer. I'll be the best." And that was from 8/6/1979.
That was a time when stand-up was just absolutely culturally explosive, like especially in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah,
where you grew up.
Yeah, it's really kind of wild. I mean, not really a lot of people came out of the valley there, and wanted to be a comedian. I mean, and you're right. I mean, there was culturally, my grandmother worked at this place called RCA or Sperry. Was on Balboa. Richard Pryor lived on right down past Parthenia and Balboa, and I work nights, and every night I would drive by his house. I mean, I don't know why, but I'd just drive by his house.
I mean, you just want to get a little bit of the juice. You just something.
I did. I just wanted to just see something, And I actually did a eulogy at his funeral that we became, I wouldn't say close friends because he was sick, but I was around him a little bit, I think that meant so much to me to be able to know him at any point in either of our lives, because I just spent so much time idolizing that guy, and his grandmother ran a brothel, and he had issues with his grandmother, raised him and stuff, and I just felt myself like, really just like I would follow him anywhere.
Freddie Prinze must have been like that for you, because he had he was one of the stars who exploded out of stand-up at the time when stand-up was exploding as a form.
Yeah.
And he was Latino. He was Puerto Rican, but Latino.
The first summer of '73, I think they started to show Chico and the Man, coming this fall, Chico and the Man.
I'm just going to say, it sounded like I was suggesting Puerto Ricans are less Latino. I only mean that you're Chicano and he was Puerto Rican.
So and Hungarian.
Yeah.
Hungarian, and yes, that's right. But a bit Hungarian is, Puerto Rican playing Chicano. And even back then he took some flack for that. It didn't matter to me. I would say, if you look at representation and what came from me seeing him as a Chicano, and he was not playing Chicano, but if in any way that show had have been not on the air because of its ethnicity, or they didn't want a guy playing like that, I'm not sure where I would have found my motivation, because that seeing him was really just that one thing I needed to see to get the idea that I didn't even really think about a stand-up having a television show, but he did that stuff. He had a show, and then he hosted the Tonight Show, and he was doing dates in Vegas. And I had no idea he was on as many drugs or suicide attempts and stuff like that. But in January of '77, when he died, they got the radio. It was 6:15 in the morning, and it said that he had shot himself. It was a Friday. And I sat on that bed for maybe 25 minutes with my mouth open. I don't think I've ever done that before, just in a total shock of what had happened to him. But, it's a tragic end, but in a sense that, I would not be where I am if it weren't for him, even as a tragic figure. However the figure was, that was his life, but he'd given me enough with good and bad to go forward and to not I don't know if I was going to do the drugs, but also that is possible that somebody can come out of someplace and make something of themselves.
Did you have show business or comedy already in mind?
No, I think I would have had comedy on my mind. The guy that I grew up with, Ernie Ariano, my best friend, first friend, he died the night before we did the Lopez versus Lopez pilot, and it was really we weren't speaking at that time of his passing, and because we had a lot of issues from way back, just same things that someone was unreliable and I didn't realize until he was gone that everything that I did or still do was because of him. So in a way, a bit of a muse. He had brothers that were older, so they would go to concerts, and I started going to concerts with him, and then I started to golf Christmas of '81 with him, and guitars. We bought guitars when we were 15, and then doing stand-up. So all of the four things that I still pretty much spend my time doing were all because of him. So I thank him, and I paid for his funeral. And, man, I think the thing that really sticks out to me is that that you could have a friend like that had his own family, but didn't forget me. Sorry. When it's easy to back then, when it would have been easy to, I got it. When it would have been easy to move on from somebody because either their parents said or whatever was said that, you know, he was at that time, you know, with me and stuff, and I owe the guy a lot. Yeah. Man.
Who got you on stage the first time you got on stage?
He did. Yeah. He said there was a guy that was at Kennedy High School there in 1979. And he was like a kid comic. You know, he was going to the Westwood Comedy Store and signing up. And he brought the school paper to my house. And he's like, hey, man, we got to do this. We got to go over there and you do this. I'm like, yeah. So we sit around and, you know, started writing jokes and stuff. And we went there, and the comedians were on strike in like 79. And then when they went back, we went. But I don't know the answer to this question. I wish I did. But whatever made a kid like me, who was so afraid of everything, do one of the things that might be the hardest thing to do in life, and especially when someone's so shy and introverted, so few skills, you know, so few, you know, behavioral. This thing was just kind of raised myself, and to keep going back when you're not very good and it takes years to get good, I have no idea what made me continue to go back when you're taking, you know, beatings, or even when you do good, it's really not that good. But I don't know the answer to that.
I watched your set on Carson.
Oh.
1991, the very end of Carson's run. Let's hear a little bit of it.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. I'm sorry for people who don't speak Spanish. Fajita. I don't think my grandfather understood the whole concept of car insurance. He thought AAA was for people with serious drinking problems. But you know, he had a Pontiac that he would drive, and he would hit stuff and keep going. They don't make cars like they used to. I just bought a Geo Metro. Well, actually, I got it in a Happy Meal. I thought it was Dinosaur Week. Have you been to McDonald's lately? They have breakfast burritos. They have Mexican food. It's like this big. It's very scary. They should call it McDoo-Doo.
You got a full-on applause break for McDoo-Doo.
It was supposed to be macaca, but they wouldn't let me say caca. You know, yeah, man, I haven't heard that. I don't know. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'm happy to hear that.
There's a couple of things, or a few things I noticed about it when I was watching it. One is...
My hand was shaking.
I didn't see that. Was it?
Yeah.
The things I saw were when you step up to the microphone, someone in the audience yells, Jorge. Did you hear that?
No.
I mean, I just thought somebody in the audience at Johnny Carson felt so comfortable that they thought, I'm just going to yell out Jorge at this Latino guy.
Crazy.
In the audience of a TV show.
Yeah. What's the reason for that?
I mean, racist, I think.
Huh. Yeah, I didn't hear that. But, you know, 91. And what else did you notice?
I noticed that you smiled and laughed after every one of your jokes, which worked for that audience. But when I saw you do it, I thought maybe this is partly inexperience, but also partly this is a guy who knows he has to do some extra work to make the audience comfortable with him.
I believe that. A bit of a cap counselor. Everybody this way, you know. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I was a bit inexperienced. I mean, 91, I'd really, 79, things 84, 7 years, yeah. Yeah, that's true. I would say yes.
7 years is often what stand-ups say it takes. 7 years,
7 years.
a regular thing before you are yourself on stage.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I was myself there. I don't think I was, I don't think I was unhappy with it, but I think I think I did as good as I could do for where I was at that particular time. I wasn't one of the best, so I was just happy to get a spot, but also I couldn't make myself something I wasn't, so maybe I did have to punch the gas a little bit there at the end. Yeah.
I mean, as I'm watching it, I'm thinking this is high quality, generic comedy
Yep.
from a guy who has to acknowledge on stage every 90 seconds that he's Latino, or else he's going to lose the audience.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I mean, it was so early in that time, and I would say it's a bit of a jungle because there wasn't, chocolate Sundays or, Latino Tuesday or anything like that. Like we had to all come up in the same place. So, I would say, yeah. As a matter of fact, that Johnny Carson left in May of 92, and I remember being in Las Vegas the summer of maybe June of 91, and in the lifestyle section there was a comedian named Ron Schock who's passed away. But in that story about Ron Schock, they said, there's 6 more openings for young comedians before Johnny leaves, and I thought, it's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. There's 6 tickets out there. I wonder who's going to get them, and I got one. I didn't imagine myself getting one. I'm not sure whatever roads led to me getting one, but I'm happy that I got one.
The last thing I noticed about your Carson set is that it was not personal. It was personal in the sense that you're talking about being Latino, and there was not other Latino comics on TV barely.
Right.
But it wasn't about you.
It was mundane, I think, right? It's a bit, yeah, no, I hadn't started digging into myself yet, but it's interesting you would say that. So when I was maybe a few years later, I was in Caroline's, New York, and struggling through the week, and Dave Becky, who was now at 3 Arts a manager, he was a manager. He was Chris Rock's kind of part-time manager. He worked at 3 Arts. And he came backstage and he said, "Hey, can I give you some constructive criticism?" And I said, yeah. He said, when you see Chris, you know what he likes, you know what he doesn't like, you know what his politics are. And when I see you, I don't see any of that. I don't see what you like. Are you married? Do you have a kid? What are your political views? I don't get anything. So it has to be somebody in your family that is funny or somebody you spend time with, And he said, "You got to make it more personal, man." I mean, and I walked back to the hotel that night and I found my grandmother there, and amongst all of my thoughts, and that changed the direction of my career. I was talking about my grandmother.
I mean, I can understand why you would have been hesitant before to talk about her, even if it had occurred to you.
Yeah, man. God, it's hard to believe I'm this old and I still can see all the doors close in my mind, that lady, I don't think she was a bad lady. I just think she might have lived a bad life and didn't know what to do with me or how to handle me or anything.
I mean, I think that trauma is a son of a gun.
It's a bad thing. I still have a lot of it too. And one of the things that I think, coming from that era that I come from is where, I didn't go to National Lampoon and then, start writing at Yale and then, created a comedy troupe and then I became a comedian. I mean, it's almost like when somebody's a boxer, you just throwing punches, just try to get out. So I think it was a lot of that, and it was very isolated. So I thrived in isolation, and I think once I decided to kind of, with Dave Becky's advice, to change the way I thought about my act and stuff, that I found the humor and found as if a bike is pedaling and you're trying to catch the pedals, I caught the pedals pretty fast, and there in the 1990s, when Sandra Bullock saw me and we started to put the idea together for the sitcom.
I mean, you could be forgiven for saying to Dave Becky, "Talk about myself. My grandma didn't even tell me anything about my mom."
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, God, man, I mean, my grandma didn't tell me anything about my mom. I mean, I have no pictures of me as a baby or as a child. There's nothing. There's nothing to. And then the joke was, I'd say, tell my grandma, how come there's no pictures of me? But I still got a few more pictures on the roll. I thought that was a good one. But we weren't those kind of people, man. We weren't picture people. We weren't huggy people. No. Wow. I haven't thought about these things in a long time, so thank you for that. I appreciate it.
I'm glad to talk to you about them.
I see a little bit of, I feel a little bit of light coming through my chest, actually. You know, it's been a long time. I know you really get it, man. You understand it. I just would think that I'm just going to work harder than everybody else. I'm going to work while everybody's sleeping. And I still get up pretty early and work like that. Yeah.
You have had to live your entire public life, or at least the last 30-ish years of your 25-ish years of your public life.
Yeah.
In parallel with the television version of yourself?
That's right.
So what is it like to walk onto a stand-up stage or walk down the street and have people understand who you are from having been the star of a TGIF show? I don't think they think deep enough to think. I think they think who they see is who I am, you know, and I believe, especially in this climate, that everything is so negative and so beyond, you know, hate, that the people who hate me and who are not fond of me, or who, you know, send death threats to me, don't believe that wrestling is real and that those guys aren't wrestlers all the time. And there's nothing that I can say to people, or nothing that I can do that is going to change their mind, that what they see is who I am. And it's not even close. Not even close. But hey, you know, in the beginning they would say, "How close is the George Lopez character or the ABC show to me?" I said, it's an exaggerated version of myself. I'm not like that. And gradually, you know, they became kind of looking at each other eye to eye. I grew up on that show, and my personality grew up on that show. And now, you know, we go through it again with Mayan, that it's, I would say, for this particular time in our lives, that what she's going through, I'm going through, because I'm maybe the person that caused it. So again, that's a better version of me, but still nothing to be admired, I would say. How long were you and your daughter Mayan estranged?
We were probably, I would say maybe 7 or 8 years. And it was tough, man. I mean, you know, it's my only child, and I was drinking a lot in 2009. My grandmother died in 2009, 2 years there. And just, you know, me and her mother were not kind to each other. It's just a very, very difficult time, you know. And I was alone a lot. And yeah, if I made it through there, I think I was trying to destroy myself, I think, privately, and not publicly, but privately. And, you know, I had a guy that was working with me that turned out to be a bad guy. He died in 2014, but he was I would say a psychopath, a sociopath, that he lied all the time, and we had no idea until he passed away. But I was very disappointed in that I had, you know, bought into this guy being like a brother to me. And then when he died and I found out he was stealing from me and all the things that he was doing, it broke my heart, you know. And mine's not an easy heart to break, but it got me. Yeah, it got me.
And I imagine your heart was broken from being estranged from your daughter and your daughter's mother.
And he knew that, and he played that against me. Like he really enjoyed kind of giving me the and telling people that behind my back that I wasn't a good father, that my own daughter doesn't talk to me, and all under the guise of, when we were together, like, hey, I'm like a brother to you. Terrible.
Was there any time when you actually were able to ask for help in there?
Well, I had a therapist guy that I've had since 2000 that has helped me. But also, remember when cars started to check themselves, like you go through the diagnostics, the car would go through its own diagnostics. I think in that time, I started to look at myself and what was wrong with me, and then systematically trying to remove those emotions from my life. And I've learned everything by the hard knocks. I mean, just really terrible lessons to learn. But as I started to get a little bit out of there, I turned out to be a little more optimistic and a lot less hurting myself as much, or giving myself an opportunity to be alive and not feel guilty for success or failure, And I think it all kind of met when they came to us before the pandemic and decided that they wanted to do this show. I was kind of ready to, we were talking a little bit, but I think nothing like it is now. I mean, she sent me a beautiful message on Thanksgiving about taking the trip with me down this road and how much she loves me and all that stuff. That's just, it's beautiful.
Did she reach out to you initially?
Yeah. I think she started to see some things in behavior that maybe had not, that opened her eyes a little bit. And we started to talk. I mean, it's crazy when you see guys that were my friends when I was married, and those guys had more of a relationship or saw her more than I did. It was really painful. Yeah.
Were you scared to work with her?
Well, I almost say like failure was not an option. She talked about wanting to do TV and stuff when she was like 12, like when I was, the same thing as me. And she went and trained and went to Second City and went to college and took classes and sang and acted. It was very good. And
her mother was an actor and producer as well.
Very good, by the way. And so it would be tough if she hadn't never gotten off the couch. But, I would tell her that, I think you know what you're doing. I'm not going to really kind of give, if you need any advice, ask me, or otherwise I'll leave you in the hands of the people that are capable. You're a producer, director, executive producer, it's in note sessions. And she's come a long way in a short time. She's got a great coach and friend that works with her. And I'd say, I can hear her rehearsing in the morning about an hour before we start while I'm in my room messing around with the guitar, and I just get there early because I've always gotten to work early. And that's really something that through that wall, it fills me up with pride to know that this kid is here early and working on something that not everybody will see, but then eventually they'll see in success how much better she's gotten in a short amount of time.
What about the part where you're on stage with your daughter from whom you were estranged for 8 years, and you're enacting for an audience like the hardest parts of your relationship that may or may not even be settled between the two of you in real life?
We were doing, that's a good question. We were doing a thing in the kitchen, and she said, do it for me, your only daughter. And then I said, that I know of. And she like completely shut down and there's across the line there. So she didn't like that. So I was like, oh, okay, sorry. And I don't think I've ever acted as keep myself in my lane as much as I had on this show, because it's just so volatile and everything's still kind of laying on the top. Yeah. But, in season 4, when we continue, I'm pretty sure we will, that I'm not going to go to as many deep places. I told them I've gone to the deepest places now. And now the family's going to start to win a little bit. They're going to start to come together and they're going to start to really get it together and suffer wins instead of suffering or celebrating losses, you know.
What was it like to be on set and beat up a piñata of yourself?
Man, that's pretty real there. I mean, when Mayan, the way her cadence of her voice was very dramatic, but also, and not trusting men, just that 1, 2, 3. And I'm standing there looking at her, and in my mind, I said, God, she did that beautifully, really beautiful. And then Selenesa's like, can I go again? I just thought of some more stuff, which I thought was really funny. And then, Tisha Campbell played the therapist. She goes, all right, George, time to face yourself. And, but, oh man, I mean, that might have been the only time I've really faced myself. And that piñata wouldn't break, like I wasn't supposed to hit it that many times that hard. So I'm in there and I'm hitting it where I thought I should hit it and it wasn't going. And in my mind, a thing flashes by like, don't stop, keep going, hit it harder, hit it somewhere else. I'm hitting it lower, and then you're just pretty exhausted at that. And then the thing was for me to collapse, and then that thing all collapsed and break down at the end. But whatever made that piñata a little bit tougher that day, and I had to hit it more to get it to break, really was the button on that scene, and with the whole collapsing of it and her putting her hand on my shoulder was great.
Do you think that if you get 100 episodes of Lopez versus Lopez and it wraps up a grand success, you will feel comfortable resting?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yeah. Because you never think of your mortality when you're younger, but also suffered a lot of loss in the last 5 years, lost a lot of people. And I understand myself now, and I like where I've ended up, and I don't need to pump myself up or be seen, because I'd rather not be seen. But also, when I'm not being seen, I'm comfortable with what I'm doing and who I am. So it's taken a long time, but yeah, I think I'm in maybe the best place.
Your daughter Mayan introduces you on your new special.
Yeah.
Was it her idea, or did you tell her to introduce you as El Mas Chingón?
Oh, no, I think it was her idea. Yeah, Mas Chingón. It's like King of Pop. They said, what does that mean? It's like, you remember Michael Jackson was like King of Pop? Yeah, she said El Mas Chingón. Yeah. Yeah, man, that was her idea.
George Lopez, I'm so grateful for your time. Thanks for talking to me.
Oh, man, you're the greatest. I said, thank you so much. I hit a spot there, then I'm back around being happy, man. Thank you, Jesse.